Hi, Professor Wills here. Nice to have you back. We are continuing to explore Teotihuacan in our examination of the ancient Mesoamerica. We are going to talk about a couple different types of artwork in this mini video lecture. The first is architecture, and there are three pyramids at Teotihuacan of significance. We've met the first two that you see in the content page, the Pyramid of the Sun and the Moon. The third is known as the Pyramid of the Feathered Serpent. So we will talk about why it's unique compared to the other two, as well as the deities associated with them. Then we're going to pivot to an art form famous even in ancient Mesoamerica, and that is murals. So painting on walls. And in the ruins of what they think were the palace, they have found examples of such murals, which also will introduce us to a female deity and the benevolence that she gives to the people of Teotihuacan. So let's get to the PowerPoint and I'll show you what I mean. All right, backing up a little bit here, let's meet that third pyramid. The Pyramid of the Feathered Serpent. I have Quetzalcoatl in parentheses. I'll explain who that deity is when I get a little bit further along in lecture. Again, we're exploring the Teotihuacan urban center and culture dating to around the year 200. Whereas the other two pyramids in Teotihuacan are also faced in stone. This one is done slightly different, and it's here that you meet a building technique that began in Teotihuacan, and that is the talud tablero style, or slope and panel system of construction. What you find here, you can see in this illustration, a view as if you could do a cross-section from a profile view of the pyramid of the talud tablero technique. Essentially, each level of the pyramid begins with a sloped element, or the talud, and then that supports the next layer, the tablero layer, which is basically a vertical framed entablature. Then that is repeated in alternating levels and tapering, of course, to a peak at the top of the pyramid. Why build this way? Why not the kind of more generous stepped pyramid aesthetic that we saw with the other two pyramids? Well, what it provides is almost like framed levels for art. So you can see a mix of low and shallow sculptural relief featuring two iconic deities associated with the culture at Teotihuacan, and of course one will inspire a famous god later on. The first one you can see on the right hand side, and here's an enlargement of that being. It's referred to as Quetzalcoatl, and although the Teotihuacan people didn't refer to this god as Quetzalcoatl, and instead associated it with their rain god, it is a feathered serpent. So the head is supposed to represent a snake-like being with a feathered kind of headdress encircling its head or encircling its neck. This is believed to be the precursor to the iconic protector god and creator that the later Aztecs will revere, known as Quetzalcoatl. The second head you see here projecting from the tablero has a much more stylized presentation, almost geometric, with its block-like head, circular eyes, nostrils, and of course fangs, so it's serpent-like as well. This one is believed to be Xiuhcotl, or the fire serpent, who was associated with warfare, fire, and time. Included with these kind of elements of, when you think fire and water being so oppositional, but also so critical in, cycles of renewal, destruction, creation, the importance of water, in these cultures that were so agriculturally based and so forth. There are even shells included in the tableros, as well as representations of water and stylized serpent-like bodies that you can see, almost like a composite view of a frontal face and side view body as well. Next up are the murals. So this is a reconstruction. So the original obviously would not be in this kind of condition that you see here, but it's one of two murals found at what is known as Tepantitla in the palace ruins of Teotihuacan. And the central figure that you see here is known as the Great Goddess. And she's sometimes referred to as the mountain tree as well. This dates to about the years 400 to 700. And again, it would have been a painted mural. And there are many that have been found in many Mesoamerican civilizations. So it was a artistic form of expression that was very common and would be later revived in the famous Mexican muralist artists like Diego Rivera and others when the 20th century rolls around. So what you see here is a front-facing figure wearing an elaborate headdress, and sprouting from her head is meant to be interpreted as a kind of tree of life. And you can see its myriad branches moving or extending in several directions. Dripping from the branches are raindrops because, of course, water brings life. There are also various spiders and butterflies included as creatures that are associated with renewal and transformation. For instance, when you think of butterflies, right? They have a whole cycle beginning with becoming a caterpillar to its cocooning to its emergence as a butterfly. So this idea of a goddess bringing forth life through rain, and of course the beings that are fed from that water. In addition, fertility is suggested with this inverted U shape you see emerging from her head. That is likely a reference to the female uterus. So again, another nod to fertility. On either side of her are likely priests in profile view, also wearing headdresses, who are paying homage to her. Myriad plants, again, the fertility of the world, again, like a Mother Nature kind of figure, suggested here as well. And then down below here, her feet are meant to be shown underground. So you have kind of like a ground line suggested here. It's very stylized. But to connect her to the underworld, to the sacred realm of the divine, also gives her her more of a presence as a powerful goddess in being as well. If you were to see this in person, there would be another mural located below it. And it's here that you can see how she has benefited humanity. And so this is the mural that you can see here. It depicts a mountain. Not surprisingly, right? There is an obsession with these sacred mountains in Mesoamerica. So you can see one such mountain here. The mountain is symbolic as a force, as a bringer of life, and emerging from it is a river. So a river is shown flowing in two directions off the mountain, just like the melting snows, right? You know, melt and send rain down to feed our streams and rivers. What's also enjoyable to look at with this mural are the myriad people who seem to be swimming in this river, like they're at some kind of, ancient version of raging waters, as well as conducting various kind of activities with animals such as butterflies, shown growing crops with, again, the idea of the goddess above them, bringing rain, bringing, those rivers flooding their banks, bringing fertile soil from which they can grow their food and, of course, grow their population. An interesting motif that's also very stylized is known as a speech scroll. You can see that in this detail I've included on the right-hand side here. So here you have a figure perhaps recreating with a ball, carrying a stick, some kind of ancient lacrosse activity going on there. But the curved element you see here, it almost looks like a musical note, is meant to represent almost like a speech balloon in a comet. Words or song coming from the figure's mouth. So you can see that happening in many instances here. And of course, language, song is another way to convey joy in the population. So located again below the Greek goddess Mural, you can see how the world has benefited from that goddess's benevolence. Thanks for joining me.